Will you then prepare a test case in court if the council declines to repeal the ordinance?
This is not a type of case, this ordinance does not lend itself to a test case. This kind of ordinance, really in legal terms, is a criminal ordinance. And therefore, you cannot prepare a test for it. A situation would have to normally develop. But this is not the only avenue open to challenging the legality of what you believe to be a city ordinance or any other law. This is not the only avenue open. A test case is not necessarily required to determine this. There are other forms of legal determinations that can be used to clear this up without any street brawls or any area congregations or any separate and sinister type meetings. This is not the sole avenue that's open.
Well, we have a lot more maturity, Vern, this year than we've had, and this was one of the things that we really wanted to try to bring about, because we just felt like in the past that we just haven't had the great pro maturity that you need. And I see evidences of this. We don't seem to be discouraged one bit about the Baltimore game or the Green Bay game either. We know we have a good football team, and as long as they keep this attitude and keep coming back, we'll come out all right in the end.
I feel that the people that vote for Wallace will vote for me. Now, when we go into the national ticket for president, I believe that those who vote for Mr. Wallace probably would have voted for Mr. Nixon. So my feelings are that this Wallace vote will hurt Mr. Nixon much worse than it will Mr. Humphrey.
Mr. Eggers in Austin yesterday said that Texas spent 49% of its budget on education and yet had the most illiterates. Would you consider this an accurate statement?
Well, I don't know where he got this kind of information. I think it pretty well reflects his unfamiliarity with the programs that we have in Texas. I think we have fine programs in education. I think they can always be upgraded and improved, and certainly we're going to do that. No doubt this comes from the fact that Mr. Eggers grew up in Indiana. He, while I'm sure is a good man, he just doesn't understand most of the governmental programs that we have in this state. And to realize this, I think you'd only need to compare the government in Texas in all of its phases and its programs with that of any other state. And I think immediately you'll come to the conclusion that here in Texas, we have a good state government.
Ling Temkovat's new $2.5 million Robert McCullough Research Center was officially opened today with ceremonies at the building. Before some 500 spectators, LTV Vice President and Technical Director Raymond Blaylock called the new facility a blend of academic and industrial atmospheres. Special speaker was Edward C. Welsh, Executive Secretary of the National Aeronautics and Space Council, who noted that the LTV building would provide added private research to that now conducted by the U.S. government. Welsh said too many people now look to the government to finance all the nation's research while still criticizing the budget.
No matter what the breed is called, I am not for them. Rather, I believe without reservation in our system of government and our capitalistic principle of business. Those who believe we cannot afford to lead the world in research and in investment and in standard of living are themselves fortunate, as we all are, that they're not running this government.
Other news was being made in aeronautics, but not quite as high as outer space. Carl Mayo was there.
Thank you, Phil. Here at Dallas Aero Services offices at the far end of Love Field, W.P. Silverman made an announcement of planned expansion of another type.
Our terminal building, I believe, will be one of the finest in the country, one that will lend itself to the needs of an arriving pilot. It will contain a ready room for the pilot, a pilot's lounge, a roomette where the pilot can relax and rest after a flight, and the last but not least, a motel on the premises for the arriving passengers and crews where they can spend the night without going to town.
Not anything that was made.
You're apparently an animal lover, sir. Mr. Nelson, you have asked the state legislature to make it a state offense to buy any type of poison, in particular rat poison. Would you explain, sir?
I cannot stand to see an animal suffer the way my dog has done. For over 4 months she went through what the veterinarian says the agonies of hell. And as you can see here by these pictures of her, how healthy she was just before she got the dose.
Now, Mr. Nelson, what exactly are you asking the state legislature to do?
To outlaw the sale of rat poison. It is not, unless it is signed for. After all, they are God's creatures.
On the surface, this ordinance appears to violate the First Amendment to the Constitution. It further makes possible for the mayor of the city, and particularly this one, to create what might be called a Hitler state. I'm quite sure the city attorney will agree with me that this is one of the avenues that can best be utilized. We don't need a public demonstration to necessarily clear this up. We don't need the mayor to declare a state of emergency in the city to determine whether or not this is proper. I think that once they have read my letter and looked it over, I think they will more than likely agree that something further needs to be done in the way of this ordinance.
Is it your feeling or the feeling of the NAACP that such an ordinance is more likely to bring about disturbances than vice versa?
It is our official feeling that these ordinances of this nature does not tend to create harmonious relationships. Does that answer what you're saying?